Good morning, YouTube. How to properly bore sight your rifle. Okay, with a laser bore sighter. Bolt action rifles, you can use a bore sighter or you can pull the bolt out and look down the bore. They also have bore sighters out that are made by caliber of gun, and you just slide the sucker in to where you would have a bullet go, turn it on, and whoosh, away you go, right? However, there's a little caveat to this. None of these bore sighters that are lasers work in broad daylight. You need either a good indoor environment with the range required, or you need to wait till nighttime when it gets low enough lighting outside that you can actually make use of that laser. So, because they don't work in the daytime outdoors. Okay? Anyway, now, most bore sighters on the market work at a minimum of 10 yards, okay, which is 30 feet. Now, that's fine. 25 yards is highly recommended, okay, because they say that it should also still get you on paper out to 100 yards, okay, whatever. Now, I did my first rifle at 10 yards, did it in the house. Turned out, yeah, we had to kind of get our elevation up quite a bit, so that was a good full turn plus. And then, of course, we had to, adjust our windage, which we would have had to anyway, okay? But in the house at 10 yards, we were bore sighted in dead perfect, dead center. The laser was dead center with the center of our crosshairs, which is the whole idea. So I tried the same stunt with this gun, but I also made a mistake that was very critical. This can go against you. I didn't have the bipod at the time. I had my same rest, which in the end, I mean, it did work out for the other gun, and that scope is perfectly level, so that gun's fine. So, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. Where I went wrong was this scope was already perfectly leveled within these rings. And so I just took that scope from my air gun, slammed it on this thing because it's the same dovetail system, which means I'm not disturbing any of my canting. No canting. It'd be dead level. Initially it was. However, I decided I ordered in some new scope rings. I wanted some higher profiled ones, just in case these were too short, which it turns out I got just enough space there. I'm good. So why use them? However, I'd already started to loosen these things off to change them, and it was like, but turned out I didn't need to. Okay, so we're going to use these ones. We clamp them back down, not thinking I didn't move the scope, or did I? Well, when I picked up my gun and I looked through at the crosshairs, yeah, looks even to me, and I knew I was holding the gun nice and stationary. But everything looked good and square, but as it turned out, it wasn't. So that became a little bit of an issue. Well, how did I know it wasn't? Well, at the time I didn't. So then the bipod comes in, rechecked my 0 on my other rifle with the bipod. It's fine. It's actually shooting below a nickel now. This one, on the other hand, was a living nightmare from hell. Turned out, when I got home from the range, after wasting over 50-60 rounds of ammo and finally just getting to paper, and by then I was like, I couldn't clean my glasses anymore. It's hot, sweltering, it's nasty out there, y'all. Anyways, I packed it up for the day because the other person that had let me into the range with her as a guest, because we were the only two there, she had to go, and I didn't blame her. It was hot for both of us. So packed it in, got home, and I thought, there's no way I should have to jack up a gun with paper on either side of a bipod to get this to sit square, because that's something else I had to do. That little bit of outage, which was minor, made a massive impact on this thing sitting square on the bipod. Well, now everything is on the bipod, no paper beef-ups. It sits perfect square. So I looked down at the top, and I'm like, that is shifted. That's actually canted down a bit. And I'm like, son of a bean, it didn't look that way. Well, now it's actually dead perfect. So anyway, got to find another time to get to the range. Normally I go with my buddy, but because he's working 2 jobs, he's really busy. So, you know, I've been going by myself to the range, taking a chance somebody's there that would let me in as a guest, and, you know, I still pay my $5 either way, but then at least I can shoot. Because I'm still trying to get a membership with a range, which I did hear back from one and started the paperwork, but it's going to be a bit before that finishes off. Anyhow, regardless of that, we will get to that eventually. One way or another, we've got to get this thing back out there and figure out what ammo it's going to like the best. Another one likes the CCI standard. This one, who the hell knows yet. But before you even think about using a bore sighter on your gun, all right, first of all, you do have to buy a bore sighter that supports the caliber of your guns, okay, or gun even. So that's important. And there's tons of choices on Amazon. Like, I got that one from Wish back in 2019. Still working perfect. I haven't even touched anything with it, haven't had to. They got tons of choices out, more so than they had even back in 2019. So there's a lot of options out there for you. Just pick whatever you want that's going to work for your purpose. However, they all work the same way. The idea is to sight your scope or your red dot or your open sights to the bore. That's your starting point. From there, you zero at whatever range. Now, even though they do say 10 yards is the minimum, and most of these sighters will work at 10, if you're not sighting for 10, but you would rather sight for, say, 25 or 50 or 100 yards, well, then they say it's highly recommended to be at a optimal distance is 25 yards for bore sighting. And that should still get you on paper, even at 100 yards. And you know at 100 yards, depending on your little MOA thing here, it's going to be X amount per click, right, for inches type of thing. Anyway, so these bore sighters come with a variety of adapters. And with that, I'm going to undo this one, which is my 22 caliber one. And you just unscrew it, okay? Put in the appropriate adapter for the caliber of your barrel, okay? Your instructions will tell you. I lost my instructions, but I know which one is which because I use it the most, so it's got score lines on it. So you want to make sure that this plastic adapter is first screwed in to the screw so that it's at the top of the screw. Then once you've manually, you know, put this in a couple of turns, finish it all off with the screwdriver, okay? It will stop on its own, and that's it, okay? Go to your front of your gun, to your muzzle. Now, I can tell you right now that that is too much play, okay? Way too much. So, this is, because these collars are all threaded, okay, with the screw, do a turn, say a full rotation, put it in, still too loose. Let's go a half turn. That's getting pretty snug. Quarter turn. That's really good. That's nice and snug. So then just check the wiggle. It should be very minimalistic or none. Now that has just a little hint. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it a little bit this way. Pop it back, pop it out. So I know it's nice and tight now. And that is much tighter. And now it has almost nothing. Okay, that's perfect. They're not going to be 100% solid lockup, like 100%. But the less play, the better, okay, because otherwise it throws it out. But you want to make sure it goes into the bore really snug, okay, but not where you gotta, because if you bend this thing, you're going to damage your rifling, okay. Then, of course, you got to turn it on. Our laser is on. Now, again, you need to do this either in an indoor environment at the 10 or 25 yards. 25 is preferred, okay? This way you can still get on paper at 100. I'm only sighting for 24 yards. which will still, even with a 25-yard shot, is still going to be fine for hitting grouse, squirrels, and rabbits. But I do have a gun that I do want to set up for 50-yard shooting, and that's a 22, not this one. Anyway, so once we got that, then what we want to do is we want to align that laser where it's hitting, and it doesn't, you don't have to be on a target, okay? You just have to hit a freaking white wall or a wall, something, even a freaking tree at night at dusk that you can see that red laser, okay? Just make sure you use a rangefinder outdoors and check your yardage to make sure where you're at, okay? But that red dot, although it will be physically bigger than the dead center of your bullseye on your crosshair, it needs to be dead center, okay? Once you've done that, now we can gently remove it, and you can leave it set up the way it is for the next 22 caliber gun or whatever, or you can take it all apart. It's kind of up to you, whatever you want to do. All I'm going to do is back off the tension, okay? That's it, and then it goes back in my box. So, providing this is square, this is dead square, and everything's gone right for you at your 25 yard, which is kind of like where I'd recommend it. Because at 10 yards, I was shooting really super low and a little bit to the right. So for windage adjustment, it wasn't that bad, but my elevation had to be drastically changed. And so I think 10 yards, even though it's minimum, I'm going to recommend 25 yards, okay? And because I'm dialing at 24 yards, it is definitely going to get me really close to that area where I shouldn't have too much adjustment. Once you have bore sighted properly, okay, do not start shooting ammo and trying to get it into the bullseye, okay? Unless you already know the ammo that your gun shoots perfect, don't screw with your settings. Start shooting ammo. Shoot 10, 15 rounds. You know, like my box magazine holds 10. So I'm going to shoot 10 rounds at a target, and I'm going to see where it lands. And then, of course, I will accordingly, you know, do that again and see where it lands. Now, the tightest group is what I'm going for. The smallest and tightest group is what you're after, okay? Because when you go to longer ranges, you want it to still stay tight. It will open up a little bit because you sighted for, say, 24, 25 yards. When you get out to 50 yards, your point of impact is actually going to go down on you. Okay, your windage shouldn't be an issue other than wind, but your elevation is definitely going to change, right? So, because you're going twice the distance now, you're going to expect there's going to be a drop. So you will have to make some minor resight adjustments because of the now twice the range. You got to bring it back up again. That, or figure out which mil dot, if you have a mil dot scope, where your holdover is for your elevation, and you could do it that way and not touch your adjustment. Especially if most of your shooting, or even most of your hunting with a 22, is going to be at 25 yards. Okay, but if you ever want to go to the 50 yard type of thing or longer, then just use your mil dots if you have a mil dot scope. I highly recommend mil dot scopes. Now, the other thing I'm also going to recommend too, which you may not like to hear, is to buy a scope with an adjustable objective, because then you don't have to deal with any kind of parallax. Parallax will never allow you to sight a gun 100%, okay? Not unless you are the kind of shooter with the skill level to actually be able to, over and over and over and over, never miss the precise spot when you bring the gun back up. So you're shooting, for example, okay, you got a parallax to deal with, which your scope could be 50 and you're at 25, or you're at 30 but you're at 25. You're under the parallax. Whatever you're under the parallax at, you're going to have an issue where these crosshairs are going to appear to move when you move your head, because you're within that parallax. Now right now my parallax is set at 24, which is actually what I'm dialed for at the range. So that gives me perfect focus, at the same time clear picture, and yep, we're fine if we're at 25. But if we're less, which we are now, I can see that if I move my head in the wrong direction, those crosshairs are going to appear to have gone off target, which means you're going to have a hell of a time trying to even properly sight your gun in. And this is where we run into a problem with a lot of people out there that think, well, that 4-inch group is actually pretty respectable at 100 yards. Okay, but what's the parallax on his scope? Is it above 100? Or does he just not even know how to even adjust the scope properly? Or does he have the wrong ammunition for the gun? Because that kind of a grouping, that big at 100 yards with, you know, calibers above 22, yeah, you shouldn't be getting that big of a grouping with any gun unless you got the wrong ammo or you're a sucky shooter or something is wrong. Okay, now I'm very OCD when it comes to shooting. I've been shooting pellet guns, like I said, for nearly 50 years now. I can tell you that my last pellet gun I had in here, which is one I did a custom build on, that thing at 20 yards, shot after shot after shot through this exact scope, I could just destroy that bullseye, which is way below a dime, way below, okay? It's like probably half or less, okay? It was small. And at 20 yards with six times fixed, it's pretty damn small at that range. And 3 shots, I got no bullseye. I'm freaking bored, okay? And I can't even use a bipod on that thing, okay? So I'm kind of using my arm, my shoulder, maybe a stand, maybe no stand that I've cobbled together, whatever. Point is, I'm that good with that gun, and I'm also that good or better with my QB78 I used to have. But those are air guns, and they're non-PAL, right? I only got my PAL finally in the mail this year. Took the course last year. But now I'm dealing with real firearms, which is why I tell you I'm not a firearms expert, because I'm not. But I know enough about them from airgun world and studying real firearms that, yeah, what I'm telling you is straight out facts and truth, okay? So, but I recommend scopes with adjustable opticals. You never get a parallax issue. You never have to worry. You will have a easier time getting things zeroed and getting the best possible results. And you don't even have to buy an expensive scope. This was under $200. The replacement to this, because they don't make the 6x32 anymore, they make a 3x9x32 bug buster, which works best on dovetail rails, okay, as we found out. But they also make a 3x12, okay, which is like 229 Canadian. So, however, I paid almost $200 for this one brand new, and they all come with Picatinny scope rings, but I have dovetail ring kit on this because it's dovetail. But you don't have to buy a really super high-end scope unless you need that sort of a scope for a certain rifle because of range issues you're dealing with, or you know, you want certain toys that are available. Now keep in mind there are some pretty cheap shit scopes out there that have more toys than you can shake a stick at with them that cost you $50, and they are absolute pieces of garbage. So the more crap you have to go wrong, the more things will. This has an illuminated reticle on it. It's a mil dot scope. I love mil dots. Locking and resetting turrets. So once I set it, I lock them. I don't have to dick with it again. As long as I'm at the same range I zeroed for. If I'm at a different range, I need to re-zero. Then I can just unlock the turret I need, make the adjustments, boom, lock it back up. I am done, right? And of course, part of that is you also got to adjust your adjustable optical for that new range. Because right now, we're at 24, whatever. You get the idea, right? Pretty sure you should. Anyhow, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this, on how to use these bore sighters properly and how they're used. Just keep in mind that you really got to be critical to make sure that your gun is absolutely square when it's in a sled or on a bipod, whatever. When you're shooting, if you're not using a bipod or a sled, you got to keep that gun as square as you can. Otherwise, you're going to get some pretty massive groups, okay? And you're going to fight and fight and fight. And you also got to make sure that your scope, especially as your scope, is dead square on your firearm, or you're going to have nothing but nightmares at any range. So, till the next one, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment down below. You know how it works. See ya.